Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's call. It's Magdalena here from Hormones Balance. As always, on Fridays at 10 o'clock Pacific and 1 o'clock Eastern, we are talking about stuff that is important that's going to impact your hormones. I'm gonna wait for a bit audience to build up a little bit, and then we can dive straight into the topic. This is a huge, actually, an important topic. We're gonna be talking about low stomach acid today, as well as H.Pylori, diagnosing it, treatments, and why is it so hard to diagnose it? Really, really important topic. And it does impact our hormones in so many ways as well. So I'm gonna talk about that in just a second. I'm wondering if you could just, I'm always wondering where my audience is from. So, hi there, John Lynn. Introduce yourself. Tell me where you're from, where you're listening from, and are you new or are you a regular here? I do recognize a lot of familiar names. And if you feel like there are women in your life who would benefit from knowing a little bit more about nutrition and hormones, because these two can be so much impacted. Well, hormones can be impacted by nutrition in a big way. Then make sure you tag them in this post here so they'll know to come back here. All right, Linda is from Los Angeles and Avis from Albany, New York, and she's new. Hello, welcome. Robin Keith, hello. Jem Alba is from Farm in New York, and she still got snow. Oh my God. Lisa is from Valley Center, California, familiar with your work through Trudy and Julie. Nice. Susan from Chicago. And then we've got Anne from she's new from LaGrangeville in New York. A lot of New Yorkers. From Tennessee, Martha, hello. Nice. Well, thank you for being here today with me. And so we've got even more people posting. Great. So I'm gonna wait till we have an audience of about 100 people or so, and then I'm gonna dive into the topic. So just hang in there with me. I have to tell you, I'm laughing and stuff, but I am really feeling crap today. It's one of those days. I did slap on some makeup just to look presentable, but I have to tell you, I've been struggling. And part of it is the H. pylori diagnosis, and I'll tell you about it in a second, how I got diagnosed. And I'm doing some antibacterials right now, and so the die-off is really intense. And not a good time to get a die-off going and feeling really crappy when you have a book to deliver. So my book is due this Sunday. I already submitted my first part. Why don't I show you? Because this could be actually kind of interesting. So this is the first part of the book. I printed it out, and so this is the first part, the theory part that explains the science behind nutrition and hormones. And it focuses, of course, on the digestive health and liver and sugar levels. Those are the three things that I always talk about. And then it's got plenty of protocols in there. So, so this got like 180 pages, right? Well, guess what? And this is, these are the recipes. 218 pages, I think. I just brought it back from the printer today. 218 pages of recipes, you guys. I need to go over it this weekend and edit them, and then I've got to retest like probably about 5 left to go. So pretty intense process, I have to tell you. And I never really realized how much work goes into a cookbook. I actually found that writing the first part, the medical part, the nutritional part, was far easier for me than doing the recipes, to be honest. Just because the recipes take a lot of time. Those are not recipes like, get, chocolate chip cookies that you rip off from somebody else, change 2 ingredients, and then boom, you've got a recipe. I'm using things like tiger flour and cassava flour, which are delicious, and they're hypoallergenic, and they are not like the flours like, like almond flour. A lot of people are using it, but because it's grain-free, but a lot of people now are having problems with with almonds and with nuts. And so I'm using flours that are really hypoallergenic. And by the way, one of the cassava flours I'm using, I just saw them at Whole Foods this morning. So it seems like by the time the book comes out, it's going to be more mainstream. Linda is saying, stop chatting and get to the point. Thanks, Linda. I will do that when I'm ready. And yeah, so one of the other things I want to just share with you is that I'm going to be off next week. On Friday, I'm going to be taking time off just because this has been a very intense 3-month process. And I think I need time off. So I'm not going to be here next Friday. I'm going to be up in the mountains in Colorado and just chilling. All right. So let me ask you this. How many of you here know whether you have low stomach acid or whether you have good stomach acid, or you just don't know? So I'm curious to know, before I dive in, why don't you just share with me what's your take on your stomach acid? Do you know? Do you not know? And so one of the things that has happened to me is, in the past, I would say 2-3 years, my health has been kind of, even though I really take care of myself, and ironically, a lot of the protocols I teach in the cooking program and here, has been working for so many people, and I feel like I'm 80% there, but I'm not 100%, and I knew that something wasn't right. And so most of you are not sure. Okay, so let's talk about that. What I have discovered is that I have very low stomach acid, and Susan is saying, I think I have low stomach acid because I have vertical ridges on my nails. Good observation. Deborah is saying, mine is good, my partner is not, and I'm listening to him for him on this issue. Thanks, Deborah. Severe bloating, pain, discomfort, constipation, signs of low stomach acid. That's very true. I have H.Pylori and I think it's low. Lisa is saying, used to take betaine, stopped, didn't seem to need it anymore. Nice. Okay, so here are a couple of symptoms of low stomach acid. I'll talk about that first, and then let's talk about why is it really important to have good stomach acid. And for those of you who have acid reflux, also known as GERD, you'll be surprised to know that that's actually the result of a low stomach acid and not having too much stomach acid. So stay with me, and I know it sounds really crazy and counterintuitive, but there is a reason behind it. So symptoms of low stomach acid will be things like many of you have mentioned here correctly, and that is when you eat, like you feel the stomach, like food is just sitting in your stomach forever, right? It just doesn't get down. And it feels like a lump right there, right? Sitting there in your stomach. Another thing is that happens is when you go to the toilet, right? And look at your poop. And if you think it's disgusting, get over yourself, because it's a wonderful diagnostic tool that tells you a hell of a lot what's going on the inside of your digestion. When you look at your poop, if you do see food particles, right? Like, if it's like flaxseed, whole flaxseed, that's okay, because that's almost impossible to digest. But when it comes to like pieces of carrots, pieces of lettuce, pieces of vegetables, right? You see in your stool, that is definitely a sign that there hasn't been enough stomach acid to break the food down and digest it properly. And there is issues with that, and I'll talk about it in a second. The other thing is, somebody mentioned the ridges on the nails, and that is true. It depends on who you talk to. Those ridges, those kind of like vertical ridges, not horizontal but vertical. And those ridges oftentimes are either low stomach acid. A lot of times people say it's because of nutritional deficiencies. So that's very true, and they're very close together because when you have low stomach acid, a lot of times you will be depleted of nutrients, and I'll tell you about in a second how that happens. So another symptom would be, burping, right? You eat a food and then you just stop burping. Another one is having a lot of food sensitivities. Believe it or not, low stomach acid can be causing that or contributing tremendously to having a lot of food sensitivities. Another thing would be, just constipation. I did a whole big call on constipation some time ago. So if you go to my website, hormonesbalance.com, and look at on the menu up there, we have Friday FAQs with Magdalena. There is a call that I did on constipation. One of the big causes of constipation is low stomach acid. So what's the big deal about that? And if you know women in your life who are experiencing that kind of thing, like, oh my God, like it's always like food is always sitting, in my tummy. Another one, actually, before I forget, is if you are having like an aversion to to fatty foods, to meat. A lot of vegetarians, for example, have actually low stomach acids. That is oftentimes your body's intuitive response to food that says, I don't want to eat meat, I don't want to eat fat because I do not have the right juices to break the food down. Does that make sense? So what's the big deal about stomach acid, right? So how many of you, when I'm talking about the symptoms, how many of you here can relate to these symptoms? Alex saying, well, that's me. And so let's talk about testing for stomach acid. Do you have sufficient or not? One of the tests that I like to do is, Eileen says that sounds like me so far. Yeah, thanks for sharing this. I'm sure many of you, and who here is on antacids? I'm curious to know that one as well. Let's talk about that. What about rosacea, Cheryl is saying? Yeah, Cheryl, rosacea is actually an autoimmune response, believe it or not. So healing the gut. And it's a great question, actually, because anybody here with autoimmune disease, anybody here with Hashimoto's, Graves' disease, will benefit tremendously. You've got to start off with your gut, right? And having sufficient stomach acid is like the first starting point. Hey, you guys, in my view, being put on antacids, it's like as bad as it's like the next bad thing after antibiotics, And there are so many people who are put on antacids and without realizing that within month 3, they don't digest things properly. They just start having bloating around the tummy. They have these food sensitivities. Now they're reacting to foods they didn't react to before. But most of us don't connect the dots that, antacids, and then, now it's because it happens a month later, which feels like, ages ago that I started it, right? There you go. So Marina is saying my PPIs, which is basically antacids, made my SIBO a killer. There you go. I stopped taking mine. Great. So I have a very sophisticated audience here. Many of you already know about this. So let me just touch on why our stomach acid, having too much acid, is actually not the cause of acid reflux. So acid reflux happens when your esophagus, right? When from the stomach, the acid from the stomach travels up the esophagus, right? Now what happens is at the end of the esophagus there is a little flap called LEF, and LES, sorry. And what happens with that little flap is even if you're upside down, somebody hangs you down, believe it or not, you will be able to eat food, is because the esophagus pushes the food down always. And then the little flap opens up and closes, and that's your connector between the esophagus and the stomach. Interestingly, when there is too little stomach acid, the stomach lining becomes really weak. So think of it like when there is sufficient stomach acid, we should have a pH of 2, believe it or not. For those of you who are into the whole alkaline and acidic thing, with your body and peeing on the strip and right? You know that what was it, like the 5.3 to 5.7 is like a good range, right, that you want to be in. Well, guess what? Your stomach acid is pH 2. That's how low it has to be. And when it is a pH 2 level and it's got sufficient stomach acid, it gives you like this nice, strong, plush, lining of the stomach. When there is not enough stomach acid, that lining weakens significantly, and that LES little sphincter thing that I was talking about becomes weak. And because of the weakening of the muscle, because of the low stomach acid, it starts escaping, going up your esophagus, and that's when you start feeling heartburn. So, and if you still find that hard to believe, then let me share with you this. Think about it. Who are the people who are mostly put on antacids? Older people, right? Older people, like you start going to 40s, 50s, 60s, a lot of people. Have you noticed like old people have bad breath? I I said it. Old people smell bad and they have bad breath a lot of the time. Not everybody, of course, right? You know, and the reason why that happens is because of low stomach acid. We produce less and less stomach acid as we age. So the interesting thing is that, you know, why is it that old people suffer from acid reflux? You do not have the youngsters suffering from acid reflux. And guess what? Young people have sufficient stomach acid. Does that make sense? So, yeah, so, and anyway, if you just Google around like the functional medicine approach to stomach acid and acid reflux, you will see we're having too little stomach acid and not too much. So if you want to test, you know, but some people can have a low stomach acid and not have acid reflux. That was definitely me. So how do you test for it? Right? I mean, you can, you know, get fancy and go and see a doctor and get a tube in, and they do all these invasive inspections and all that. But there's a much, much easier way of doing that. And that's what's called the HCl dosing test. HCl, you basically purchase HCl betaine pills, right? And what you do is you start off with a pill, one HCl betaine pill. For many, I mean, I like things like Now, and Thorne has got good ones, and what's the other one? Yeah, those are good brands. It doesn't really matter. Those are all pretty good brands. And so start off with just doing one pill before your meal, and make sure that you do have like 4 ounces to 6 ounces of some kind of a protein in it, preferably meat, and then see what happens, right? So after you finish your meal, do you feel any stomach burn, any discomfort? If you don't, that means that you most likely have low stomach acid. That's why you needed that pill. And very likely you might start feeling better. You might feel like, oh, I'm actually not burping that chicken. So then if you still don't have anything happening, right? For lunch, for dinner, you still do 1 and 1. So for that first day, you do 1 and 1 and 1 before every meal. And then what you do next is, and then if you still don't have any discomfort in your stomach, right, then you go up to 2. So now the next morning for breakfast, you do 2 HCl pills. Still nothing. You do 2 for lunch, 2 for dinner. The next day you go to 3, and then you basically keep going up until you feel the burn, discomfort in your stomach. That's when you know you need to back off. So let's just say you went up to 3, right? You did 3 and then you felt nothing. And then you went up to 4 and you felt the discomfort. So you back off to doing 3, okay? And that's how you know. Margaret saying that I was taking about 6 each meal, way too many. No, Margaret, it's not too many. That's what your body needs. And believe it or not, I was up to 6. I still actually am up to 6 right now. And I'll tell you in a second why that is so. I discovered H.Pylori, that I have it. So no, it's actually really important to take it. The question is, why do you have a low stomach acid? And that's something that I want to talk about a little bit more today, right? So, you know, there could be a whole variety of reasons. Actually, you know what? Before I go on to talk about why is it important to have, like how to fix it, I want to talk about why is it important to have good stomach acid, because I think we need to appreciate it first before we take all these different measures, right? Do you guys want to take a guess? Margaret is asking a good question. Can I do a lemon juice instead? That's a really good question. Yes, but lemon juice, I feel, is like an equivalent to 1 to 2 pills. It might not be strong enough. So if you're up to 6 right now, lemon juice is not going to help you. You got to figure out what's causing your low stomach acid in the first place, whether it's food, whether it's H. pylori, I'll talk about in a second. But I found that I love lemon juice, and I would rather do food rather than popping pills. But sometimes in cases like this, you've got to do it. If you find that 1 or 2 pills is enough for you, then go back to having lemon or lime juice, 2 tablespoons, apple cider vinegar as well, warm glass of water before meals. It's a wonderful way of fixing your stomach acid. Let me talk about it. Why is it so important? You know, I want to share with you this true story that happened. I lived in China for 4 years, in Shanghai, and a lot of times we will go out for dinner, and sometimes we will go to those more dodgy restaurants, but they were fabulous. I mean, it was fabulous food, but sometimes we're not really sure what you were getting, right? So what happened was, sometimes we'll go out with friends, so like 6 or 8 of us, and then half the people will get really sick, right, with, just food poisoning, and then the other half wouldn't. And so for the longest time, I was always wondering why, did we all get sick? And the interesting thing is that now that I do the work that I do, and the answer is the amount of stomach acid that different people have. And the reason is that stomach acid is like your first line of defense against pathogenic bacteria, right? So obviously there was something iffy in that food, and that's what was causing all that diarrhea to those people. When you have sufficient stomach acid, that pH 2 that I was talking about, that kills everything right there and then. And so not just bacteria, but viruses, yeast, parasites coming in. And so even if you're kissing your dog, which I'm not recommending you do, but if you're kissing your dog, if you have good stomach acid, that's the first layer of defense that kills everything off. Second reason why stomach acid is so important, I think I alluded to that earlier, is that it's really what is the chemical breakdown of the food. So somebody mentioned about the ridges on the nails. People have that when they have low stomach acid is because they are not absorbing all the nutritional goodness that you're putting in your body. So imagine like you're going shopping, organic, you're spending all that money on it, and you're spending time learning all these new recipes. You do the Cooking for Balance program with me, and you're like so dedicated, right? And then you're like, it's just, I'm still, not 100%. And I'm telling you, the stomach acid can make such a huge difference between what gets extracted from that food that you're putting in your body. That's why seeing the food particles in your poop is not a good thing. And when you up your stomach acid, you will see that that's going to change right away. The third thing is that stomach acid also helps to regulate the overall bacterial balance that we have in the gut. So imagine before things get into the small intestine, they go through the stomach first, right? And the HCl, the stomach acid, is like a cup in a way that really manages what gets passed on to the small intestine and what your bacterial flora is like, especially in the small intestine. So for those of you who have seen my Cooking for Balance program, and if you haven't, make sure you watch cookingforbalance.com. That's a free workshop that I do on a regular basis called How to Use Food to Rebalance Your Hormones, if you're new to this. And one of the cool thing about, the connection between the gut and hormonal health is that there's something called the estrobolome, which is a subset of bacteria that is responsible for breaking down estrogens, right? And so for people who have estrogen dominance, like terrible PMSs, infertility issues, swelling or water retention on their limbs, hair loss, breast lumps, breast cancers, thyroid cancers are all estrogenic form of cancers. And believe it or not, the estrobolome plays a vital role in metabolizing, getting rid of the antagonistic estrogens, the ones that are really causing the proliferation of the cells, the pathogenic cells that cause those symptoms that I talked about. So those are 3 really good reasons, and I can't tell you how important this is because, there isn't really many people that I know who have really good health while having really low stomach acid. So take care of that. Start fixing it with that HCl that I talked about. There is a couple of you, let me just look at the question here. So Thorin and Now, do you HCl at a drugstore? Patty is asking, yes you do, very easily. There's a number of brands. So Melissa is saying, so for treating parasites, should be treating low stomach acid, which should address first? That's a good question. If you have parasites already too late, you need to work with somebody on a parasite protocol. Or just, if you want to work with a practitioner. Otherwise, the brand that I like to use is called HumaWorm, HumaWorm, HumaWorm. It's strong stuff though, so I have to warn you. It's very potent. And then once you treat the parasites, to make sure that you have high stomach acid. It's a good question here. Thanks for mentioning that, Melissa, because, because I have found that, I have history of parasites myself as well. And so that was always been a huge discipline for me to you know, to be basically keeping my stomach acid up high and never to let it go so low to the point where I'm gonna having to deal with parasites again. I ended up having to take an antibiotic that really messed me up, and that was such an unpleasant experience that was one of the big, you know, incentives for me. So let's talk about what causes low stomach acid, right? And for many people, it could be just be food sensitivities. You know, when you have constantly you're eating certain foods such as gluten, dairy, sugar, if you have candida yeast overgrowth, a lot of times that can inhibit the stomach acid production. And the easiest thing to find out is to do the elimination diet. I talk about how to do the elimination diet on the Cooking for Balance program. It's a free workshop. Deanna, if you're listening, Deanna is my assistant. If you're listening, if you're tuning in, if you could just post and pin it to the top, the Cooking for Balance program. Thank you. So do the elimination diet to figure out what are your food sensitivities, and cutting those out is like the simplest, quickest thing to wellness, right? And including improving your stomach acid. Another one is, you know, low zinc actually can also be causing low stomach acid. One way to test for zinc is there is a zinc formulation. If you just do zinc, oh dear, I'm forgetting it right now. I'm gonna post this later on my notes, so come back to the page. There is a formulation that you use. You basically drink up a zinc formula, and if depending on the taste you're having in your mouth, you would know whether you're zinc deficient or otherwise. So that's those are then the third reason is, which is huge, is the H.Pylori that I wanted to allude to, and I wanted to share this with you on this call because it is something that 2/3 of the population has. A lot of people are not symptomatic, and I mean, most people have it. The question is, do you have a H.Pylori overgrowth or not? That is the most important thing, right? And, you know, evidently, when 2 years ago when I started realizing I was really having low stomach acid, oh, by the way, bad breath is another one for low stomach acid, because you have so much bacterial growth in there going on that you have really bad breath. So what happens is, you know, I lost my train of thought. Yeah, so H.Pylori is something everybody has. The question is, how much of an overgrowth do you have going on, right? And, you know, I suspected that I had it because I was like, I don't have food sensitivity, like I don't eat foods that I'm not supposed to be eating, you know, I don't have an excessive amount of stress, I'm not zinc deficient, right? So what is going on? And I tested for H.Pylori, and that's when I want to just tell you the tricky thing with testing for H.Pylori is that it oftentimes comes back negative. So I did blood tests for antibodies for H.Pylori, came back negative. I was like, huh. So then I did 2 different stool tests, and one of them is called GI effect, and then the other one is called doctor's data. Both of them came back negative. I was very surprised. And I finally did one test that I want to tell you about, because more and more functional practitioners are using it, and there's a lot of stuff that came up for me that no other test has picked up. But before I share this with you guys, you can talk to your practitioner or find a practitioner who can order that for you. You can't order that yourself. The reason why I'm sharing this with you is not that this is a test that shows it all, and the technology is still very new, right? I mean, 10 years from now, we're going to be laughing at these labs. But it is what it is right now. And so, you know, a lot of these tests are just, some labs pick up one thing, other labs don't pick up other things. And so as frustrating as it is, sometimes you might need to do all 3 of them, which are all great. I personally really love doctor's data. When I used to do private coaching, I had a lot of clients show results that we were finally going like, eureka, hallelujah, we found the reason why you're not doing well, right? So, and by the way, doctor's data, that is a GI test. You can do as a stool test. You can order that online yourself. You go to directlabs.com and then order the test at directlabs.com. There's only a few states that you can order that in. Unfortunately, New York is one of them. I know, sucks. So I want to show you, this is the lab test that I had done. It's called GI map. Right, so this is the one. And, so I'm having like a lot of negatives, it's all good. But look at that, right? Finally, boom, H. pylori came back high. So this is how I found out. But that's just part of the story. The other thing I want to share with you, which is really, I think, key to my own recovery, is for those of you who followed me for a while, I've had Hashimoto. I was diagnosed with Hashimoto's in 2008. I also had estrogen dominance and adrenal fatigue. I had no idea what these things were, let me tell you. So if you're feeling lost, welcome to the club. The good news is today there's a lot of people covering these things, like the way I am or a few other people are. Back then, there was nothing about this, especially when I was living in China, so I felt pretty lonely. So where I am today with Hashimoto's is that I managed to get my antibodies down from over 1,000 down to 63, right? So it's a pretty good thing, and I'm not symptomatic at all. So that's pretty awesome. But doing the work that I'm doing, I was still like, why do I have that active Hashimoto's? I'm taking care of myself. I live what I preach. I shouldn't be having this. Like, what is still keeping the autoimmune part active? And that's something I want to share with you, because I think this is relevant to everybody, especially for those of you who've been on this journey for a long time. You've done my Cooking for Balance program, you got off all the trigger foods, you've optimized your liver, you rebalanced your sugar, right? You've done all these great things, you've taken parasite treatments, and you're like, I'm still not well. Like, my Hashimoto's is still active, I still got antibodies, I still can't lose weight, whatever other symptoms are still lingering on, right? So, one of the legs of autoimmunity is our infections, right? And as much as I've tested, as I said, through the other labs, nothing was coming out until I finally got this. And I want to just show you, these are opportunistic bacteria right here. Can you see how many of them I have? And this one is a dysbiotic overgrowth bacteria. This is the one that's apparently causing a lot of pain that I have in my joints and muscles. So as you can see, out of, I've got like 4 pathogenic bacteria. Any one of them can be creating a lot of havoc in the body. And I'm really grateful that I did this, I invested in this lab, because it just showed me something, it was the missing piece for me in my journey. If you're just starting out on this journey, please don't freak out, because you can do still a lot of other things before testing and getting overwhelmed with all this stuff. Getting the elimination diet going, learning to live without gluten and dairy and sugar and corn and soy, and eggs maybe, if they are your sensitivity, if they are your trigger foods, can really create so much of change. I've had clients who just started drinking lemon water in the morning, and they're like, okay, I'm done, I'm good, I'm healed. And I'll never see them again because they're so good. And there's other people like me who's, been on this journey for a long time. And I know some of you are too. So I'm sharing this with you. Kim is asking the labs. So by the way, there's going to be a replay of this video. So whatever you've missed, just go back to the video. We're not going to delete it. It's going to be there live, for replay. It's called GI Map. And you cannot order that yourself. You need to work with a practitioner. To find a good practitioner, I would suggest going to my website, hormonesbalance.com, search for doctor or functional doctor or supportive doctor, and you'll find a whole bunch of links there. So GI Map, yeah, Alex just posted there. Thank you. Yeah, Linda is saying H.Pylori is horrible stuff. It really is. So guess what? I am basically doing right now a protocol for H.Pylori, and that's the reason why I mentioned at the beginning of this call, I'm feeling crap. Today is a better day, and I'm a little bit more perked up because I'm on video with you guys, and I was excited to get on call. Although part of me was like, all I want to do is just sleep on the sofa. The die-off is pretty awful. I've been trying to take it slowly because I've got a book to finish and it's not the right time to be feeling crammy. But I also wanted to get started on it, right? Because it takes about 8 weeks of the protocol. So I'm working with a doctor who's using a functional protocol. Mastic gum is one of the things I'm doing. Have you guys, who's watched the kitchen thing that we did with Isabella Wentz last week? So just a quick update. Her book has hit the New York Times bestseller #1 list. Can you believe it? which is just absolutely awesome. And cool thing about this book, and then when I talked about it when we did the video, is that not only is it for people with Hashimoto's, but she's got like these protocols for, you've got parasites, you've got H. pylori, you've got, you've got SIBO, you've got digestive issues, you've got liver issues, you've got sugar levels issues, everything is in here. And her book in some ways is going to be complementary to mine. Mine is a little bit more food focused, where hers is very much like supplements, because she's a pharmacist, right? And a little bit of food here as well. So if you haven't gotten the book, get the book. I'm using the H. pylori protocol from her. Mastic gum is like the core center of it, and there's a couple of other things to support it. But yeah, so Jeanette is asking, what is the functional doctor I'm working with? Jeanette, I live in Boulder, Colorado, and so I'm seeing somebody not too far away from here, but she does have a 3-year wait list. Her name is Dr. Jill Carnahan, so it might be a little hard to get on the list with her, but there are good functional practitioners on that list that I talked about earlier. So, so let me see, does garlic and sulfuric foods help to fight H. pylori? It is, Alex, it's such a nasty bacterium that I don't know whether these things alone will be sufficient. Part of the protocol, there is a book that I have, and I'm using it right now, so as under my computer, so I can't show it to you, but it's called Prescriptions for Natural Healing. One of the things they talk about there for H. pylori is, for example, juicing cabbage. So maybe that's the sulfur-rich foods you're talking about, but I don't know, like I've heard so many stories about how difficult it is to get rid of H. pylori, because it is not just a bacterium that just hangs out there. Dun, 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 dun. It actually sits in your walls of your stomach. It's embedded in the walls. So it's a pretty nasty bacterium to get rid of. And then some of it gets passed on to the small intestine as well. So, if you have H. pylori confirmed and that's really creating havoc in your digestion, then I would say, hell, just get on some serious, herbals and antimicrobials, and just do what you need to do. Get off coffee. You need to get off coffee. You need to get off alcohol, minimize sugar, get on these herbals and take care of yourself. Keep your stomach acid up high. So those are some of the things that are really helpful. So let's see. Jeanette is saying, I've heard of Jill. Yeah, Patricia is saying it's contagious too, H. pylori. It is. So through kissing, it can be passed on through food. It really, and here's the thing, a lot of people think that, it's only people with ulcers who have H. pylori. Guess what? Only 1 out of 7 people, 1 out of 7 develops develops H. pylori, has it because of H. pylori. The other people are not symptomatic. And so again, the symptoms of H. pylori are very similar to what I talked about earlier. You're bloated in the tummy, food doesn't get passed down, you're burping food, so all very similar symptoms to low stomach acid, because really that's what H. pylori does most of the time. So, any essential oils helpful? Melissa is asking. I would not do essential oils this way because, especially if you're swallowing it, is because they can really burn the esophagus. So, hey, you guys, you gotta be really careful what you're doing with essential oils and ingestion. If you're doing that if you're doing that in a capsule with some olive oil and then putting drops in and then swallowing that's a different story. But you really you need to know what you're doing. So I would not recommend, and I don't know of any essential oils for H. pylori per se. There is, Diane is asking H. pylori and Epstein-Barr virus. So Diane, all of us have actually EBV. The question is how active it is. So you can test for that as well. And I have EBV as well, very active actually. And so this is the reason why, instead of going after what do I do for H. pylori? What do I do for EBV, right? EBV, really, your body can take care of eliminating it itself if your immune system is strong. And your immune system gets compromised when you have these kind of infections going on. H. pylori is a good example. So I talked about treatments just now, mastic gum, berberine, zinc. There's a couple of other things. You guys can, research that, talk to your doctor about it. That's a protocol that I'm doing, and I hope it works. You will know all about it. So yeah, so this is what I have for you for today. What about kombucha? No, I actually really do not like kombucha. Not at all. Kombucha is very yeasty. Most people have a real problem with it, especially if you have candida. And you can test for it yourself. When you have a bit of kombucha, does it make you burp? Do you get gassy? Do you get a little bit like a drunk feeling? You know, that's all signs of kombucha just really playing up the yeast that you have, which is most likely candida. All right, you guys, I'm gonna wrap up today because for those of you who just logged in a little bit later, I just want to show you, this is what I've got to do over this weekend, and that's 218 pages of new recipes that are going into the cookbook. None of those recipes are on the blog or in my program, so it's all new stuff. And yeah, so I got a busy weekend. I'm not feeling too great, so I'm gonna chow off, and then next week on Monday I'm off for a week, which means I'm not gonna be talking to you next Friday, but I will see you the Friday after that. Make it a wonderful weekend. Don't work like me, and I'll see you in a couple of weeks. Bye for now.